Welcome into this beautiful poker room. Grab yourself a drink and perch yourself up on the rail as we talk some wingman poker. Welcome into another edition of Wingman Poker Presents, but this time we're going to do things a little differently as we are going to be going over a little bit of a chip review. We got some chips here in front of us. We're going to go over some of the chips we have through the history of Wingman Poker. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and I'd like to thank you all so very much for joining me on this chip journey today. All right, so we're going to start out. We're going to go back in time. It's about 2001, 2, or 3. Texas Hold'em is booming, and everyone's starting to get their first chipsets, and I was no different. And I was looking at the chipsets that were the cheap ones, they get that were a predetermined number of colors in a 500 chip set. And we decided I didn't like the dice ones because everyone had them, so I want something a little different. And these are called card suited. They're a little different than the dice chips in terms of aesthetic, but they are essentially the same chips as your dice chips. Let's get a little closer look here. Starting off with, let's see here, 1 second. All right, so just like I said, these are very similar to the dice chips here, but these were a little more of had a variation of color in terms of their, it was 50-50 on the edges here in terms of the color and white mixture. And if you feel them here, they're a little chinky. They got the metal slugs in them. They're an ABS of some sort, probably mostly plastic. But I will say they're pretty. I like them. They were pretty good. They don't. Sorry, let me get. They don't wobble. I mean, they're not moving at all. So they're very flat in that regard. The edges are smooth. The edge of the edge is not sharp at all, and there's no flashing or injection point or anything like that. So in that regard, they were good. They stack good. They're very slippery and that they're like kind of glossy. So they do spin. You can see how fast they're spinning there, but they don't spin off, whatever. They stack pretty good. Let's see. That one fell off. I think there's a stack of 20. Oh, pardon me. So you can see they're a little fumbly here, although I'm not the best chip handler, I will admit. They stack up good in terms of, like I said, they're so flat, you can go pretty high and they won't fall over, but they will easily knock over if you bump them, as they are very slick. So the issue with these were not the issue, but they came in a predetermined number of colors, amount of chips per color. So I didn't get to pick that at all. So we had white. It came with a blue one as well. Problem with the white and the blue is that the blue had blue and white outer edges, and the white had white and blue outer edges instead of like a white and gray. So the blue and white were almost identical, just opposite in colors. So they were very hard to tell apart. So instead of using that, I packaged the blue ones away, and I bought later, this is a separate set here, but the same kind of pattern, these purple ones here, just gives another color. But I did notice, and while I bought these purple ones, I bought a couple extra of each color as I realized I could fit a few more poker chips per row in a case here. But if you look here, on the purple one, for example, the graphics are not nearly as clear. It's a little hard to tell in the purple. It's kind of light contrast. Let's compare the original chip. If you look at this one here, the club and the spades are relatively big and they're relatively clear. Let's line up the replacement ones to the original ones. If you can probably see here, let's let that settle out there. The club on the replacement one, which is the one out in front, much smaller, very ill-defined, almost looks like a cross. So they're a little uglier, but they're replacement chips or add-on chips. As I realized I could fit a few extra chips per row in the chip case, and I did want to get another color. So at a glance, you can't tell them apart. The replacement chips are a little thicker. If you see here, I don't know if you can tell or not. Like these are all the same in height, and this one is a little bit thicker there. Let's see how the new ones, the replacement ones of these, how they were in terms of flatness. They don't flex too much either. They feel the same in terms of smoothness around the edges, I mean, but the middle has that fuzzy kind of matte feel, like it's instead of a sticker, I'm not saying this is a sticker, but it's got that like print on the chip kind of feel where it's got that little fuzzy chip. So these lasted us a while here. We probably had them from about, I don't know exactly when we bought them. I'm going to say 2002, 2003, and they're probably $55 including the case. And surprisingly enough, over the years, I've bought 2 different chip cases, and I always go back to the very first one that came with this nondescript chip set. I personally like the non-denominationals. It gives you a little more flexibility around your games if you want to try different stuff. So these have been retired from our poker game as we've improved a little bit and had a little more colors per amount per color that I would choose. But these are great now when we play craps and or even small limit blackjack, one of those random casino night games. These are perfect for craps, having the whites and the reds. So we use those for that. So they still get broken out every once in a while, but they have been retired in terms of our poker play. But like I mentioned before, if you follow us along on our other show, I mentioned that I'm getting a new chip set coming in very soon. And I figured while we do an unboxing and review of the new chips, might as well go back and look back at the chips we've had throughout the history of Wingman Poker. So these were bought, like I said, about 2002. These are 23-year-old chips. They still look great. They held up. None of them broke. We play on the outside back deck, and we do have cracks in the, in the paneling of the wood. So that's why I bought extras of these, because a couple fell in the cracks. And I redid the deck last year after living in this house for over 15 years or so. And I did find a couple, and 2 or 3 were in really good shape. A couple were rusted out. Like they got, the metal slug got, exposed, and it did kind of rust out. But I wasn't sure if it was the new one or old one, the replacement or the original, to be honest with you. Being that some held up, I'm going to kind of guess that the old school, the original ones that we got out of this type of set, this pattern, have probably been the best, most durable chip. They do have a little bit of a clink, not super high pitch. And I would say these are about 11 grams, probably bought the whole set for about $70. Not sure if I mentioned that before or not. Came with a case, and I think I got them from Discount Poker Shop. Of course, these are no longer available on that site. You can find this pattern. I did find them at one site, but they were these replacement ones with the lesser defined graphics and the kind of matte, fuzzy feel look to them. So anyway, just going back through memory lane here in terms of durability, they've held up. We use them nonstop for about 6 years or so straight. We break them out for craps now and again. Again, none of them have broken except the one or two that fell under the crack of the patio where they get washed out with get pressure washed in a hose down there. So for the most part, very durable, very cheap. So don't feel like you have to live up to those snobs. They say get the most expensive chip. These dice style chips will be just fine as long as you get the colors you want and the amount of chips per color. Feel free to go ahead and buy those off. All right, guys, thank you so much. Thanks for joining me once again for a Wingman Poker Presents. Feel free to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment. And thanks again for joining us for a trip down memory lane. All right, guys, with that being said, may your cards be live, your pocket aces hold, and we will see you next time.
Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in.